All the cultural, political, familial, financial structures that have upheld the human experience for so long are all being reshifted and reshaping. We need more coaches out there who understand the environment that we're in and can help human beings navigate this new way of experiencing life. Allow the need of the marketplace to drive you, not the how are going to people perceive me. Am I living up to my fullest potential? Because the truth of life is it is fragile and it can be taken up from us at any second.
Thank you for joining me in Season 2 of Hoda's Career Info, your career literacy program where I seek to explore career answers and increase your knowledge about the great work done by the career development community. How do I accomplish this? One interview at a time. I am Hoda, your host. I look forward to another season of career chats with inspirational guests and insightful feedback from you, the audience. Ready to meet this week's guest? My guest today is Jared Bull. Jared is a transformational executive coach and entrepreneur. He works with other coaches, executives, and entrepreneurs from around the world, both online and offline, to give them the inner tools and external resources to help them bring inner visions to life. He builds company cultures, coaches teams and leaders, and champions a diverse and inclusive world. As you will hear in this episode, Jared's true life started after experiencing heavy combat twice in Afghanistan as a Marine, where his company was hit with a 50% casualty rate, losing many of his friends. His healing of trauma and inner wounds led him into the transformational executive space. His work has been showcased on 5 different continents on a YouTube channel of 24,000 followers. Jared has also consulted within Fortune 500 companies such as Principal Financial Group. He is dedicated to showing executives, employees, and companies how to be successful both internally and externally, despite the volatile environments around them. Jared's work has been featured across 5 different industries, both public and private, within over 15 companies across 13 different countries. At a young age, Jared is so much more than that, and I cannot wait for you to hear his inspirational words. Thank you, Jared Bull, for agreeing to join me today on Hoda's Career Info. I really appreciate your time, and I am excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Hoda. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Part of this show, as I mentioned to you, is sharing personal definitions of key career terms. As I already shared with you, mine is career literacy, and you see me hashtagging it on Instagram. Which career term would you like to define? I mean, that reflects your work and define it from your perspective.
Oh man, that's hard. I feel like there's so much at stake right now. It's like the embodiment of the essence of my work in one word. It's a great question. I would have to say, I think the Japanese word ikiga, that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, ikiga, the Japanese word ikiga.
Okay, and how does it reflect to you? Like, how would you define it? Not how if I were to go Google it, not how I would find it, but how does Jared look at ikigai?
Yeah, I would define it as the inner world, the perfect blend of your inner world meeting the external world and finding the balance between the two.
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that. Your background is unique. You and I have talked about it. It is unique in the career professionals community in that many people come to the career field from different
they do different things before landing there.
Mhm.
Can you tell the audience about a little bit about your background, how you prepared for the coaching business, and what drives you to do the work that you continue to do?
Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you. Great question. So for me, really, what drives, well, I'll think about which one I want to answer first in the sequence here. What got me into it was really my experiences in the Marine Corps. So I actually grew up in a very conservative Republican background, and when 9/11 happened, I was very young. I was not far from New York City. I would visit New York City on a regular basis every weekend. And so seeing that really impacted me at a young age. And I remember just watching that and like crying a lot and being like, who could do this? And so that put a desire in my heart to go out and find the people who did that. So I had this like very conservative Republican, like justice had to be served type worldview. So I found myself in Afghanistan when I was 18 years old with a machine gun trying to find the bad guys. And I say that with quotes, trying to find the bad guys. And I had a lot of life and death experiences there on a regular basis. We had about a 50% casualty rate. It was so bad and our mission was so intense that they actually ended up doing an HBO documentary on it called The Battle for Marja. And I came back from that deployment very changed, questioning my identity, questioning my entire life, questioning, what brought me to war, looking at not only my personal story and my own narrative, but the greater cultural and socio-political context it occurred in. So by the time I got out of the Marine Corps when I was 22, I had done 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan, and all the structures had started falling apart in my mind, like what it means to be an American, what it means to be a patriot, what it means to be a Christian, what it means. None of it sufficed to give me a good answer for why some of the things that happened in war and some of the experiences that you have there. So I really started my search at a young age. So I went right to school as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, did a lot of healing work, a lot of transformational work, but I wasn't finding that the Western modality of healing, the allopathic model was successful. And so I started exploring alternative therapies, craniosacral therapy, yoga, acupressure. And fortunately, I was getting paid to go to school by the military because of the GI Bill, but then I also won a scholarship, a full ride on top of what the military was paying for a project that I was leading. So I was using all of the money that I was getting paid to go to school to fund my own healing process at the same time. So I got a good experience of a lot of alternative therapies, and I was seeing a lot of success with the alternative therapies. They were really useful. They were powerful, much more than anything the Western model was doing. They just give you medication and kind of numb you down. And so when I turned 25, I graduated. I graduated pretty quickly, and I said, you know what? I really want to go into counseling. Like I want to help other war veterans who are dealing with trauma. I could see that there was a gap in the system where alternative therapies weren't being offered for our veterans in the US. So I said, I'm gonna go that route. But I made a video on YouTube, and my first video ever went viral. And after that, I had people reaching out to me saying that they want to connect with me and they would be willing to pay me. So I think like the first amount of money I got paid was like $60 for a coaching session. And so I was about to go to grad school, but then I met a coach and I loved the orientation of coaching. And I had done a lot of the trauma and the internal healing, but the next fact, what I loved about coaching was the orientation was different from therapy and counseling. It was like, hey, counseling is integrating your past self, coaching is kind of integrating your future self. And I found that my life and my impact and my creations came to fruition with the coaching model. So I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to become a counselor. I think I'm actually going to become a coach. So I decided to cancel going to grad school. I hired my first coach and I went right into it. I started sharing what I was learning, sharing it all on social media. Well, fast forward about 2 years later, and I have a full-time business and I'm making really good money. And I don't know anything about officially running a business, but I've had a good, a pretty good mentor on the coaching side of things. He just didn't really understand the business side of things. So I said, well, what do I need next? And I went back to school, went to University of Georgia for secondary education for executive coaching, did a really great program there. And that helps me to understand the more business side of things. And at this point, I had somewhat of a following on social media, and then I started getting invited into organizations to do some executive coaching work, and because I was successful with the coaching online. Um, and so that's about, I guess, 3 years into my career. And then when I was about to turn 29, I said, I really want to take this to the next level. And that was when I hired Michael Neal. And Michael Neal, for everyone who doesn't know, I hired him because he reminded me of like a mix of Tony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle. If like Tony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle came together, he's a powerful energy. He's got an expansive presence, but he's very present. And I appreciated that he understood spirituality, but also the business side of things. At least that was the way that I perceived him. And that was the way I experienced him as well, too, when I did the mentorship. And that was a very large investment. I think it was about a $75,000 investment. But I could afford that at the time because I'd done well with the coaching work. And that really gave me a good understanding of what's going on in the coaching industry, what's working, what's not working. And that I finished that about 2 years ago. So I'm 31 now. So that's really my career up to this point, and what got me into it. But I'd say what motivates me is what the needs of the world. I mean, I was given a talk the other day, and we're in a point in our own development as a not just as a country, but as a species, where it's almost like the cultural renaissance, the information age, and the industrial revolution are all happening at the same time. And I don't think there's ever been a time like this on the planet. We have the internet that's only 25 years old. We have smartphone technology. We have access to the internet anywhere through the smartphone. And this is generating like all the cultural, political, familial, financial structures that have upheld the human experience for so long are all being reshifted and reshaping. So I think right now we're in a time of transformation unlike any other time on the planet before. And what a big part of what drives me is just recognizing and seeing every day how much this work is needed in the world. I mean, yes, I like to do the business side of things. Yes, I like to create wealth doing what I love. Yes, I love offering a valuable impact to the world that changes people's lives. But at the crux of it, I think like I see how life kind of created me to do this work, because it's just the truth of it. Like we need more coaches out there who understand the environment that we're in and can help human beings navigate this new way of experiencing life, because all the existing structures that have made the human experience since we've been around on this planet are all coming into question. So I don't think a lot of people recognize how much of a unique time we really are in. I mean, it truly is a transformational time. And every day I meet people who don't know what's happening in their life, why it's happening, who old ways of being are dying, but they don't know how to communicate it. And like, so for me, what really drives me is it's not so much as a personal motivation as much as it is just, it's the way I perceive the world now. Like I see, not a day goes by where I don't talk with someone where I'm like, you need transformational work, like not just a counselor and not just a traditional coach. You need a transformational presence, someone who really understands how we as human beings are being created and how we're shifting based off of what's happening in our environment and in our world and in our life.
I love your vision and how you have put together what you see as really everybody going through, and we see it in many of the clients that come to us who feel just overwhelmed, not knowing why. but your vision truly explains it and puts it together in that all the changes that are happening so fast. I mean, and the pandemic just pushed it forward. So definitely a lot of need for coaches and for support from that perspective for sure. You do bring unique perspective and unique way of doing things. So with that in mind, when people reach out to me, to grow their network and develop their not, the people they know, I truly appreciate it. But what I found with you is that it was a very unique way. It was exceptional how you reach out to me on Instagram. And can you tell us a little bit about what got you to reach out the way that you do, and how is it working for you? Like, should others do it?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. Two things there. The first thing is a lot of new coaches, and even intermediate coaches and established coaches I've found, are worried about coming across as business-like or salesy. Like, oh, I don't want to come across as pushy, or oh, I don't want to come across as business-like. But when you see the need for your work as deeply as I do in the world, it's not hard to reach out. It's not hard. Like if you were to be in let's say you're in a desert and you saw someone needed water and you had 3 gallons of water, and you saw this human being was really suffering, like you'd probably go up to them and give them water. And as I was sharing earlier, like we really are in a critical time where it's like the industrial revolution, cultural renaissance, and information age are all happening at once. And I see too much suffering and pain in the world not to reach out, not to share my message, not to spread it. So sometimes people say like, oh, you're really bold for like reaching out to a person or call. And it's like, no, like that's like, yeah, obviously I want to expand my business and create wealth doing what I love. Like who doesn't? But that's not the motivator. The motivator is much bigger than my individuality and my own individual desires. And this is why it's so important to be a vision-led leader, is when you see a need out there in business terms, we call it the marketplace, or just see it in the world. Why wouldn't you be knocking on people's doors? Why wouldn't you be calling people up? Why wouldn't you be reaching out to people? But most people just, they stop because they're like, oh, I don't want to come across this way. But the amount of need that I see for this work in the world doesn't allow me to stop there. Like I'm willing to be perceived as, maybe like I'm willing to be perceived however people perceive me, good, bad, whatever it may be, because I see the need for it. And I wouldn't allow someone's thoughts or perceptions of me to keep me from putting out there, spreading the message and supporting more people in this work, because it's so needed. So it's not so much as like, oh, how do you get to that? It's a state of perception and experience. Like I actually perceive the need out there so much in the world for people, things that they might not even know. Like I was just on a call with a woman who hired me right before this. And she just in the call, she didn't realize what she needed. And as soon as we got into it, I said, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm also seeing this. She's like, yeah, that's exactly it. Like she doesn't know how to communicate her value to the marketplace. She knows she's valuable on the inside, but she doesn't know how to communicate her value to the marketplace, which is causing frustration for her and then causes her to shut down. She doesn't want to come across as being salesy. She's worried about that and coming across as too much of a business person. So she holds back and she doesn't speak and own her value to the outside world. And then the third thing with her was she was just really worried and concerned about, whether she actually does bring that level of value. She knew on some level that she did, but she was a little bit, she had some inner doubts and inner fears. And so I just spoke to all of it. Like I said, hey, this is why you might be having these doubts. This is why you might be having these fears. These are some of the skill sets that you need. And then I asked her, I said, if you had those skill sets in your life and you were applying them, how would your life be different? And then she went into it and she cried and she had a release because she realized that she was missing what I had to offer. So it's a long way for me to say that if you have value, whatever whether you're in the coaching industry or whether you're just an entrepreneur or a visionary who's coming up with a new idea, allow the need of the marketplace to drive you, not the how are going to people perceive me drive you. Because it's you're like coaches' works are deeply needed in the world, and people don't even realize it, how much they're actually needed in the world, and they make it about themselves. How am I going to be perceived? What are people going to think about me? And it's like, well, that's selfish. That's a selfish viewpoint. Put the heart of service first and hold fast to the fact that you are needed in the world, even in those days where you don't think you are, you actually are. And if you can hold to that and act around that and come from that inner place of service, of knowing, you'll see that that will shift a lot in the way that you build momentum and in the way that you create. Like I'm thinking now of, and I'll make it quick because I don't want to overwhelm you too much here, but I had an interview with, or not an interview, a client years ago who worked for Honeywell. He was a sales guy for Honeywell. And he would get so nervous before he would sell and pitch. He was selling instruments for the inside of an airplane cockpit. So Honeywell builds a lot of electronics and things like this. And he was sharing with me how nervous he was before he would go and pitch, this group of executives who were thinking about buying his product. And when he shared with me all of his concerns, it was all self-centered. It was like, I wonder what they're thinking of me. I'm wondering whether they'll think I know what I'm talking about. I wonder whether, and I'm like, and I just told him, I said, hey, like, don't stop focusing on yourself so much. Like, that's your problem. Like, your orientation is like, you focus on them, focus on how you can bring them value, why they need it, and do that and watch how you present differently. And that was what he did. And he switched within a matter of just 10 minutes of understanding that, because his orientation before was on himself. Oh, well, they know that I'm anxious and worried and that I doubt whether I can do this or not. And it's like, just switch your awareness outward onto serving the other people and watch what happens. And when that awareness shifts outward to service, all the other stuff just falls away naturally.
Thank you for sharing your examples, Jared. They do show the different ways that career coaches support their clients, but they also demonstrate your passion for the work that you do. You seem very excited to talk about your work and the stories of your clients. So thank you for that. For the audience, they don't know how you reached out to me, so I have to highlight it that Jared reaches out by video. Rather than the many messages that I get typed in, Jared reaches out for video. It really personalizes the message and makes you stop and think, oh, I really want to talk to Jared now because he made the effort to reach out by video. So that's, I found very creative and very appealing, so that I would want to talk to you some more. So you keep progressing and you do things differently. And I want to refer now to the way you sign off. You have these different emojis that you sign off with. And to me, they do signify something, but I want to hear from your perspective. What are your reasons for listing 4 emojis in your signing off?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I hit my emoji signature.
I got to couple that with another question. Like, what are you hoping it will inspire with your clients or the people you're reaching out to?
I love that. Yeah, it's a great question. So I believe the emoji signature is a fist pound, a bomb, an explosion, and then 100 sign, right? So fist pound, bomb, explosion, 100 sign. For me, it's like power. It's power and it's value, and it's living. And this connects back to my combat experiences and the question that you asked earlier about what motivates and drives me. A big part of what motivates and drives my work outside of the collective perception of like, okay, the collective and humanity really, really needs this work more than they actually know, is the desire to actualize all my potential. And so for me, the emoji signature is that. It's, like a fist pound, like power, I'm with you, like, let's do this, let's make this happen, to a bomb, which has a lot of power behind it, to the explosion, to 100, like 100%, full actualization. For me, combat, seeing a lot of life and death and being in a lot of life and death situations, I feel incredibly grateful and thankful for life every single day, because I understand how precious and fragile it is being around death as much as I have. And so, walking away from that experience alive with all my limbs intact and my sanity intact, which a lot of people didn't, it really impressed upon me that life is fragile and it's a gift, and you have to make the best out of it. And so coming out of that experience, I always thought if I didn't give 100%, which is in like the emoji sign off, if I didn't give 100%, then I was slapping my creator, you can call it God, you can call it whatever your beliefs are, you can call it something that created you bigger than you are. I wouldn't be honoring that. And so and that's a big part of my motivation. Like I actually get viscerally triggered when I see people have more potential and they're not living up to it fully, which sometimes works against me. But it's been born and bred in me from my experiences in life and from reflecting and integrating those experiences. So for me, the 100 sign is you or the person reaching their full actualization, because life truly is a gift. And I think if human beings were faced with life and death situations, and I don't wish that upon anyone, but if they were, they would take that more seriously. Like, wow, am I living up to my fullest potential? Because the truth of life is it is fragile and it can be taken up from us at any second. And it's like, are we really living up to our fullest capacity? Are we really expanding and exploring our world at the fullest capacity that we could? And I would go as far, I would say that, Darwin and evolution says that, survival drives life, but I would say exploration and curiosity actually drive, and the need to expand really drives life. Because if you look at it, like, there was no reason for human beings to go to space. There's no reason for us to go to the moon. There's no reason for us to want to go to Mars, which, believe it or not, I was talking to I have a client who's a futurist consultant. He literally just goes into companies and he talks with companies who haven't brought in technology. And he shared with me, he said, we're actually planning a trip to Mars where we're going to put 3D printers on Mars. Like, that's crazy to me. 3D print rockets. So it's a long way for me to say that, like, our humanity, I think really what drives us is the need for exploration, is the need for expansion. Because if it really was the need for survival and security, I think at a certain level, yes, that's it. But at an even greater, maybe higher consciousness level, I think exploration, curiosity, and the need for expansion is really what drives us. And we don't have to wait to have a life and death situation to really wake us up and say, hey, am I really living at the fullest capacity? Am I really living into my fullest potential?
Such a strong and inspirational message, Jared. And I do sense not just your passion, but I guess the passion that gives you the purpose to do what you do. And like you said, push forward.
Oh, thank you.
My last question to you is about your work. So what are some of the projects going on with you right now that you'd like to share with the audience to know about, get to know you more about the work that you offer?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Hoda. So for me, it's three things. So I do one-on-one work with individuals and coaches, whether they're executive coaches, relationship coaches. I don't really, it doesn't matter to me which area they're in, which specialty. If they want to start up their business full-time and be successful with it financially and fulfillingly, like, that's where I come in. Like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So that's the first thing that I do, is I help coaches actually build successful businesses that aren't not only just financially viable, but are actually inner world. Because I think sometimes people sacrifice business success for fulfilling or well-being, and that's not my value system. You can honor your being and still honor your bank account as well too. The greatest way that I think one of my last mentors, Michael Neal, he put it in this way. He said, you can have a Porsche, but you can have enlightenment as well. I thought that was really brilliant, the way that he put that. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is I'm always running group programs, intensives, where I'm teaching people the skill sets, the mastery of the craft of what it means to be a coach or a transformational presence, and also teaching them the business skills. And then I also work within organizations with executive coaching. At this point, I've worked within 12 organizations. And all executive coaching is balancing relationships and tasks. That's all a business is. You can have all the systems and processes, but when it comes down to it, a business is nothing more than, are you managing your relationships effectively? And are you getting all the tasks that you need to get done in that day? And that's the art and science. And that's from University of Georgia, Sherpa Executive Coaching. I really learned what executive coaching is at its core. So those are the three things that I'm doing. And we actually are running up our next intensive here in December 10th to the 12th. We'll probably have about 35 people, 40 people who are a part of it. And if they want to learn more about what it means to be a transformational presence and a coach, but also learn some of the communication and sales pieces, we teach that there.
That's great. And then you will have more of these sessions in the new year, right? In January as well.
I'm sure, probably. Yeah, probably. I haven't even started thinking about 2022. I'm just finishing this last intensive from the 10th to the 12th. And then I'm taking off for 2 weeks and hanging out with the family. And then I'll hit 2022 running pretty hard. So yeah, I'm sure I'll have more.
So where can people find information about your work?
Yes. So if they want to check out transformationalcoaching.co, not .com, .co, got a lot of great resources there for individuals. I also have my YouTube channel. We got about a community of 24,000 other coaches there as well. And yeah, those, you can find me in those places, and feel free to ask questions, comment. We got a lot of great content from everything, anything transformational. Whatever line of development you're working on in your life, whether it's your leadership line of development, your financial line of development, relational, communicational line of development, we got stuff there for you.
Well, these are all the questions I had for you today, Jared. Was there anything else or one more tip that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
That's a great, thank you. I'm glad you asked that. I would just ask the question, are you really honoring your fullest capacity and capability? Because if I had to imagine, yeah, I think that's it. Just that's a question that I would love to leave with that. Are you really living at your fullest capacity and capability without obviously burning yourself out and making life miserable? That's not worth it, at least not in my eyes. Some people do that, not worth it to me. But are you really, really living at your fullest capacity and capability and acknowledging the gift that life is?
I love this question. Every Friday I post reflecting questions, and this would be a great one. I might copy it and
please steal it. I would love you. Yes,
there
steal
on it. That's my Friday. I usually say, okay, reflection for the weekend. And I love that question. Absolutely important to reflect on and figure out where you're headed and what you're doing with your life. Thank you so much, Jared, for being a part of my show. I really appreciate your time and your support.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Hoda. It's been an honor. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Thank you for joining me and Jared Bull in this episode of Hoda's Career Info 2022. I hope that you were inspired by Jared's advice to work to your fullest capacity and capability. You can connect with Jared on Instagram and on his website, transformationalcoaching.co. Yes, that's .co. Please remember that you can listen to Hoda's Career Info since it's also dropped as a podcast. To let me know if you are interested in an opportunity to talk about your work, you can send me a direct message on my website, rightcareerfit.com, where you can also sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the latest episodes of Hoda's Career Info. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and follow me on social media for more career info. I am your host, Hoda. Until next time, stay inspired and keep moving in fulfilling directions.